Well, it's quite amusing, isn't it? The full release of FM24 came yesterday, and in the first episode after we left FC Gifu, they've now got their badge in the game. We're not going to worry about that though, because we start our new adventure at Yokohama FC. Our director of football here has already given us the biggest transfer we've seen in this save, and we've also got a few injury problems. Let's go and see how we shape up. Yes, hello and welcome along to part 19 of the head coach with me, Daniel. Today we make our debut at the second club of our FM24 adventure as we move from FC Gifu to Yokohama FC. A bigger club in the same division with bigger expectations and a better squad. And our director of football has tried his best to add to it a little already. So if you want to meet the big new signing who you might recognise if you've got a very good memory and also see some interesting staff in additions to, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. A quick reminder that if you haven't met any of the players or staff we've got here, you can find those in the last episode where we moved on to this job. And if you missed it, there was also some pretty big news from the end of our time at FC Gifu. But for now, we are going to focus on Yokohama FC because we've got a fair amount to get through. Not only that congested fixture schedule at the start of the season, a big away game, and in fact back-to-back away games to start the season, but we'll also have a look at how our former club have got on since we've left, who's replaced us there, and what's happened to the legend that is Hiroki Izumi. But for now, let's go and get ahead to the transfers and the schedule to see what's been happening in pre-season and a transfer window in the 2.5 weeks we've been here. Well, the big news really is on the transfer front. There's been a couple of loan departures, and I didn't actually realise there was another crossover and a name I should have recognised from the reserve team. We've also got the biggest signing we've seen in this save for anyone, and that is a new striker, which we'll talk about in a moment. There's also a free agent deal as well. It's been a busy couple of weeks since you were last here, and more importantly, the offer that he's just made for a quite familiar face is a really interesting one. So let's have a look at what he's done, because the signing he's brought in for over £500,000 is Solomon Sakuragawa, and he is the man who you may remember last season was top scorer in the second tier. A very interesting signing, not a great footballer overall, poor determination, poor technically, but look at the key stats. I said I want to play with a big front two, a target man. I put the new tactic in and sorted the squad planner out. And Sean Holmes clearly went, right, you need a new target man, and I'm going to give you the biggest and the baddest you can get. In Japan, we've seen generally a lot of shorter defenders, a lot of poorer jumpers, a lot of poorer people physically. To have a striker with 18 jumping reach, 14 strength, 16 natural fitness and 13 heading, he might not be the best player we've got at this club in terms of technical ability. I will be gobsmacked if he doesn't score 15 goals in this season at least. I know he's going to come up against a few European and South American defenders that have been imported, but he's a superstar at what he does. He's a proper target forward. He scored 31 in 39 last year. The director of football was barely paid more than Tokushima played there as well. I mean, that's a really good deal for the football club. I've no problem with it. I do have some slight issues later on, but that is not one of them. He also brought in a youngster as a free agent to go in the B team. Good determination, good natural fitness, literally appalling at virtually everything else. But it does show that that is just a pattern of Japanese football, younger players coming in for the reserves. The players out though, a couple of loan deals and a permanent. So this guy was virtually gone when we joined, but a young centre-half who went for next to nothing to Iwaki, and he's rubbish, so there's no problem with that. The first loan player out though, Ibuki Matsushita, I probably should have recognised because we had him on loan at Gifu last year. He came in the summer window. He was the only first team addition, was a first team level player there, got injured, didn't really feature, went back to his parent club, which happened to be Yokohama. He's okay, but he can't jump. He can't really do much else. He's not a great player, but the fact that he's a reserve player here and was signed as a rotation option at Gifu probably gives you an understanding of the difference between the squads. And then the final one, Tamataka Tatsuoka. He has moved on, a young striker on a loan deal. I can understand that. He's 17, he's got big potential. He's 5'4", so he's not really going to suit what we're doing this year. But he should improve given his personality and determination. Physically, he needs to develop a bit more. But overall, he's got a bit of promise, that lad. So they're the deals that have happened so far, but arguably the most interesting one is the one that is pending at the moment. Because if we go to the transfer centre, familiar name alert, Shunki Mochizuki. He was on loan with us from Vissel Kobe at Gifu. He was a key part of our promotion, scored a number of goals, was very important when he was fit, and our director of football has decided to spend 700 grand up front on him, which is over half our remaining budget. Looks like our assistant manager's getting a bit excited in the background too. But Shunki Mochizuki is a very good player, we know that for sure. He's 18, he's got massive potential, we know that for sure as well. What are we going to get from him? Is he going to stay fit? Is he going to stay in the team? Is he going to be able to be a big player for us? Because we looked up front and said, yes, there was a bit of experience. There was maybe not the biggest depth of quality, albeit there was a lot of quantity there. My question, I guess, is can this lad stay consistent and can he develop into a star? But potentially, we've got two very good first-team strikers coming in. That does leave me with a bit of a problem, though, despite my excitement at the quality of the signings overall, because one of the things that also happened since you were here is that we have picked up a very big injury, and that is to Kazuki Fukai, who is out for 2 months now with a torn abdominal muscle, and he was our starting centre midfielder. He's 30, he's going to decline after this, and we've not got a great deal of depth in that position that's first team level. We've got a couple of youth players we've promoted, we've got a couple of okay backup players, but we've not really got superstars, and that's part of the problem we've got. So is there going to be enough budget to replace him? Is the director of football going to look for loan deals? I have no idea what to expect, but we'll wait and see. The other interesting thing that happened is there was one player released, which I didn't realise. So a player that we introduced in the last episode actually ended his contract on the 31st of January, which seemed a bit odd and I didn't realise. But it was the striker who was out of position, who would have been our backup midfielder to Fukai today. He was released at the end of his deal on the 31st of January. So we've now lost one of our strongest backup options from the midfield area too. And that leaves us a little bit short. There is no way of glossing over it. If we go over to the squad though, it is a bit bigger because I've promoted a few of the best youth players into the first team. You can see a few of them here who are going to feature today. And mercifully, there's very good news with one of them. Because Morishima, the midfielder, who may well have to come in today, he's homegrown at the club as well. Which means from the 18, we are going to have two senior homegrown players that can actually compete in a squad. So great to have him there. We've got Chiba as a defender. We've got Ueno as well. There's actually three good players who are homegrown at the club. So really nice to not have to rely on putting rubbish people on the bench. The final little twist from this club though, as we link into what's been happening at FC Gifu, is this guy, another I've promoted from the reserve team. Ryotaro Sada is another young midfielder with a good personality who may improve. He had a bid from FC Gifu, who are no longer interested in him, but they bid about 200 grand, which the director of football immediately rejected. But really interesting to see that that's the level of player they were trying to sign. Young players who would probably be very good in a J2 league now, who maybe in the future will become stars. So almost like Gifu are preparing to build a good side to win the league again next year if they get relegated. With that in mind though, let's go and have a look at the pre-season expectations. Most teams have played their first game. FC Gifu, as you can see, have lost, but only narrowly, away at Arawa, who were the favourites who we nearly got the job at. So if we go and have a look at the preview now, us and our opponents today, FC Tokyo, are two of 7 sides that are joint matched between 10th and 16th on 50-1. So basically, they are expecting us to be a solid mid-table side. FC Gifu are the heavy favourites to go down, and I think the fact that those two are the favourites just shows the depth and quality, and perhaps the big difference between the top tier and the second tier, more so than what we saw last year at the division below. It's also not helped by the fact that teams such as Arawa, who we had an interview at, are signing former English young stars like Bino Gittins, who is electric quick and very good on the ball, something you don't see a huge amount of over here. So that is going to make this a really interesting season. We've got no key players here, but we can see that we are the second newest manager in the J1 league because Hinata Kikuchi has joined FC Gifu to replace us from Fujieda, who are in the 3rd tier at the moment. And he is not a very good manager on paper, but he's another young one who has got potential in the future who's studying. So maybe they're looking at a similar path to us, a young manager who can do well. he has won a J3 League Manager of the Year award, so maybe he deserves credit for that, if nothing else. But interesting to see what Gifu have replaced us with. It's interesting also to note that they've been pretty busy in a transfer window since we've left. 3 signings, one of them we know for a very big fee. Takatora Ainaga goes back after a good loan spell last year, but when you compare what we're spending 700 grand on and what they're doing it with, I think you'd argue we've got a bit of an upgrade here. They also spent 300 grand on a player from Kumamoto, solid midfielder, but again, nowhere near the standard of our team. And Choi Gi-yun is a cheaper signing for them, but actually a pretty good and pretty clever one. A Korean midfielder, looks like they're going to be changing shape as well. And at 23, he's probably got some potential too. So they've been busy as well. There's no doubting that they're trying to prepare for this level, but it looks more like they're building a younger side that can go down and come back up, rather than having a real go at it this year. But my club Luton Town have been accused of that in real life, so no shame in it at all. With that out the way though, I've got to show you the one final link between the two clubs, because we've talked a lot this year about how the director of football and now technical director work in a very different way. They try and sign different types of players, and they try and link you perhaps with different types of staff. Well, interestingly, it seems previous relationships are a lot more important. We've seen it a couple of times in the transfers. We've also seen it a little bit in the staffing, because some of the additions that we've seen to the club in the last couple of weeks, particularly one of them on the recruitment side, has been a link for FC Gifu. So it's not a very high quality addition, but the newest person to come into the club is Kenti Yoshida, who is a performance analyst from FC Gifu. Interesting to see that they're linking us to our former clubs and potentially bringing people with us. I found that quite a nice addition, because it did used to happen occasionally back in sort of FM23 and 22, but you didn't see it too often from a director of football. But Sean Holmes, he's making it happen. He is a good director of football. He has proven it so far. And maybe his poor negotiating skill is one weakness, is why we're paying all of our budget for 2 strikers. I don't know, but I'd really hope he can find me a midfielder at some point. Let's go and get through to the fixtures though, because we are going to FC Tokyo. We've seen, based on the season preview, this should be a very evenly matched game, but we've got a couple of problems, which are key injuries. Our best centre forward when we joined the club was out for 2 months. We saw that. Of course, we have got a good target forward in now, but he's only been here even for 1 friendly. And we've also got the big injury in midfield with not much in terms of replacements. So we're going to go and get our 11 picked. We're up against a 4-4-2. Because of the players we've inherited here, we're going to have to play in a very different way. We're going to have to focus a lot more centrally, and we're going to have to try something a bit more unique. So we'll be back in a minute to run through the team and see what I've come up with for our opening day. Okay then, and with the few injury blows, this is what we've decided to go for. A quick side note as well, which I didn't realise, and I remember being warned about in the comments a while ago. We now have to have 4 homegrown players at the club. So the 3 first teamers are in there, and mercifully, while he's not the 2nd or 3rd best at the club, there is a sub goalkeeper who's 1.5 star who is perfectly passable for the bench. So that sort of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. But for now, we've got a few other injury problems as well, because one of our right wing back options, Kondo, is not actually back to fitness yet. He's not going to be available today. And we've also got Ishida, who I plan to be my starting number 10, but is not fit enough and didn't pass a fitness test, so he'll be there as an emergency on the bench. This is the tactic we've gone for, which I sort of alluded to in the last episode, and we could potentially drop the midfielders in, but I want to be a little bit more aggressive. We'll see how it works out. Maybe it'll end up away from home we drop these in, and at home we play like this, but I just want to see how it pans out today. We'll make adjustments as we need to. And this is the only save so far where I haven't ended up with different home and away tactics. So we can keep it simple for the director of football. That would be ideal. But for now, we're going with this, but also with a little bit of utility on the bench. So I've included a player who doesn't really fit our tactic at all into Kaji. That is purely because he's a natural on the right wing. And if we need to make the changes, we can do it and play with wide men later on. So he can play off the right. Ishida at a push can play wide. Vitalucci the same. We've also got a left back on the bench, and then we can push Yaneda forward. He's a natural winger anyway. So we're just leaving ourselves options if we do need to go to, say, a 3-4-3, if we do need to go to a 4-2-3-1. We've got the options with the bench to use virtually any tactic we need to today. So let's go and get into it with this 11. We have got Broderson in goal, who is probably the best player at the club. A back three that's pretty strong, homegrown Ueno, then Mia and Moraes alongside them. Bachari and Yaneda are the wing-backs with Lara and Morishima in midfield. Almost started Sada, but I'm going to stick with Morishima for now. And then Vitalucci behind Ando and the debutant up front, who could become a hero pretty instantly at Yokohama FC. I'm hoping he'll certainly be a threat from set pieces, but let's go and get into it, see how we get on. Opening day of the season, here we come. Well, here we go then, and we can't read too much into the changes because it was the last friendly last week. They were going to play a rotated side. We've got to get into this and see how we compete. It's going to give us an indicator for the season. Two sides that are expected to finish fairly similarly with fairly well matched squads. Two different tactics. They're playing what we were close to doing last season, and we're doing now something that fits the squad, but I don't know if it's going to work. So there's a one way of finding out, and that's getting into the first half and hoping that it all starts well at Yokohama FC. Can we get the new manager bounce? I know a few of you in the comments have been chatting about the interesting story this club has, some of the people that have passed through here as well. But we've got to find some new heroes now. I'm hoping the target man might be one of them. Bashari started well at wing-back, and it is something we saw at Luton in our Twitch save. Wing-backs generally doing well. As Yaneda puts a free kick in. Oh, there he is. The target man hits the post. First header in the box, he's won it with no one near him. And I'm interested to see that the left wing-back took a right-footed free kick there. Might have to have a look into that. Seems to be a pattern in this year's game as Morishima. Back to Bouchari to start again. Nothing comes from it, but we've started well. And that's got to be a red card, referee. Second foul. And this is a dream start. Ando uses all of his experience there, the skipper. And now, with 25 gone, we can try and see the attacking benefits of this tactic because it's 11v10. Worryingly though, the first highlight after is our host, but it's a big long ball forward that's pretty aimless, and Yaneda should deal with it. Our wing-backs are very poor defensively. Oh no. No, no, no. Oh, that's scripted. He literally stood there. I don't know why the red card thing's popping up now, but he literally stood there until the player took the ball off him. He's our best defender, and he just stood there. I don't understand it. Infuriating stuff. We've started really well. We're playing good football. And then it's an individual error. I'm going to go back this year. I don't know. Have we ever won the first day of the season? Any save, any team. Have we won on the first day of the season? I'm not sure we have. It seems to be a slow starting vibe this year. And individual errors definitely playing a part. The goalkeeper thinking about it there too. But you can't legislate for it. It's something that keeps cropping up in these saves, and we've got to be careful. As Mia does play out this time to Yaneda, finds the target man who's got runners, and this is the benefit. We've virtually got a 3 up front in this situation. The flag's up against Ando. It's not going to count. We will have VAR now because we're in the top tier, but it looked off to me. He'd gone too early. The pass really needed to be to the other man, Ashida. The goal's ruled out. It stays 1-0. Very different for me this year. It's the first club I've been at where I can really play football. I can try and keep the ball. And look at the stats. We've been brilliant. But we're playing against a side that are now sitting deep and defending for their lives because we've gifted them a stupid lead. And if we lose to 10 men, it won't be a pleasant start as manager. We've got a free kick though, or a corner, sorry, right on the cusp of half time. And you know where this is going. Watch out for the number 18. Here he is, the target. Just over the bar. He's got to score one eventually, hasn't he? I know he's only been here a few days, but you can feel that's going to work pretty well. I'm going to say keep it up. We've played really well. We've made one atrocious mistake at the back, and we've missed a few good chances. Our expected goals is almost 2. The match momentum saying is statistically we're doing fine. It might end up being one of those days because we're now playing against a deep defence, but all of the signs are very promising. We're creating, we're producing good football. Few underhit passes, which is a worry. With 3 or 4 of our best players out, this is not bad at all. As Yaneda cuts it inside, what would make it better is getting a result out of it as the target man switches to play. Bouchari finds Lara at the midfielder. Big switch up to Vitalucci, who's made the run in behind. Oh, that finish is glorious. We're going to VAR again. I think this one's going to count. The assistant didn't put his flag up. But the first time finish, little outside of the foot poke on the half volley. Vitalucci scores, it's 1 apiece, and we're going to make changes in a minute. So first up it's Lara to Ando, who's not had a good game, the skipper. Bushari just flies down the wing. They've got no defending to do now. Up to the target man who misses it. And Vitalucci hits the post. The target man was offside from the rebound, but that's the second one that's hit the woodwork. It's an unlucky day for us so far. Let's see what we've got in terms of attacking subs, because Vitalucci can't play up front, but he's doing well. I could put Ishida up there. He's not the quickest, but he's a very good player. He's intricate, he's got flair, he's good technically. And in a game where we're against a deep defence, that might work well. So I'm going to stick him up front. In midfield, we've got Morishima nervous, so we'll bring on Sada. The only other option there at the minute. And I might bring on the youngster Chiba at the back, because Mia, despite being our best player, has been a weakness, but he is also very good in the air. Chiba, not quite so much. He's only 5'10". I think we've got to try and get this game won first. So let's go for that. 2 changes made. We got a quarter of the game. We've been brilliant, but we just can't break down the 10 men, which is becoming a real concern. I'm going to encourage them because they're playing brilliant stuff. And now we're probably going to have to make changes. We're going to take off the new target man for the old guard. 32-year-old Sato, who is a good player, still good in the air as well. We are going to bring on Chiba. He is going to replace Ueno though. And then we're going to go for maybe Takagi, because we've got tire legs in midfield. I can push these guys back. Isha's a number 10, but he could play midfield at need be, couldn't he? I tell you what we'll do actually. We'll take Lara off for Takagi. He'll go up through the middle. And then what we're going to do in midfield, this is bold, I know, but we're playing 10 men. I'm going to put Sada in here as a deep line playmaker because we just need one to sit in there. And then these two are both going to play as number 10s. Vitalucci has already shown he can score off the left, so he'll be a shadow striker there. And then we'll go for an attacking midfielder on attack. We'll put the wing backs on attack. We're playing attack v defence. Let's go for it. If we concede one, so be it. I'm going to go for this now. Let's fly forwards. What else can we add on? I've tried desperately not to overcomplicate things. You'll notice this with me a lot if you're a newer viewer along here. I don't start with many tactical instructions at a new club, and then I try and work a few more in as we go along. So we're going to go positive. We're going to chase the game. We're not going to add too many instructions because we don't want to overcomplicate things. 5 minutes to go. It's been a great performance, and we're now going silly to chase the game. But I feel this is 3 points that could get us off to a good start. And even if not, showing the fans our attacking intention, not a bad thing, as Yaneda gets it on the left. Good through ball to Vitalucci. Might score. Good save. Really good save. There's a flare in the end there. That's a nice little touch. It's a corner kick, and we've got a chance because there's still big men in there. 2 of the centre-halves are over 6 foot. The 2 strikers are both good in the air. Can they find one of the heads, though? Why is the centre-half taking the corner? It's out as far as Yaneda. He'll let it go for a throw. Just looks like it's not going to be our day at the minute. We've done everything right. I mean, look at the match momentum. The only moment they had was a gift. And if you cut out that individual error, this is a great performance. But it could be special if we win it in the 94th minute. As Bushari's got the throw. Get on with it. What are you waiting for? Silly man. Throws down the line. It's poor. But it finds its way to Sato. Flicked onto Takagi. Into Vitalucci. Oh no. Oh no. Some of the chances we've missed are scandalous. You can tell we're missing the best poacher for injury, can't you? I mean, that performance is arguably one of the best I've seen in the whole of FM24. 3.5 expected goals almost, 8 shots on target, 18 shots, dominated the ball. But one individual mistake followed by a lot of lack of quality in front of goal has really cost us. I mean, we were brilliant. And again, I go back to what I said in yesterday's episode in a different save. A disappointing result, incredibly encouraging signs in the performance. I mean, I feel devastated to get a point, which I guess is a good thing on debut. If they're a side that are going to be in and around us this year, I know they got the early red card. We were battering them before that as well. For me, that's a really good sign. Let's go and have a look at the schedule for when we're going to be back, because one of the things we saw in the second tier, which still seems to be the case here, is that the season is very top heavy. So the first half of the year, you've got a lot of midweeks. You can see because of the cup games, we've got, 5 between now and the end of next month. There's also then 2 in April. There's 3 in May. And then after that, there's hardly any games where the cups are played in a big spell near the end. So very strange situation. Not really sure that I like it as a style because you almost end up having a big overload at the start of the season and then another pre-season in the middle of the year. But hopefully we can go far in the cups and maybe test that theory this season. Would be lovely to win something in Japan. We're not going to be favourites for the league. We're not strong enough for that here now and probably not in our time here. But if we could go and win a League Cup or an All Japan Cup, that would be magic. And of course the latter would put us into European football. So that's the aim with this club in the long term and hopefully we'll be able to achieve it. Now, I would normally come back for transfer deadline day and the end of the month, which we may well still do. But there's a game a couple of weeks before, which I think you wouldn't forgive me if I didn't show. We are going to be back to face the two promoted sides in the middle of March. Imabari the first one at home, which we should be winning in theory. Then it's the reunion. FC Gifu away from home. Where will they be when that game comes around? Can they find some momentum or are they just going to struggle at the bottom? And what state are we going to be in? Because if we don't take chances, we're going to be in a bit of trouble. We've also got to face the likes of Vissel Kobe away from home, who are one of the best sides in the country. It's not the easiest start on paper for us, but I'm optimistic and I'm encouraged by a performance today. We may well have a reunion with Shunki Mochizuki, who may also end up playing for us in a reunion with Gifu next time. If you're looking forward to all of that and finding out what happens, whether there's any more signings after that as well, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. There is one thing I'll say based on that opening game of the season. If we had Mochizuki up front there, I'm pretty sure he would have scored 1 or 2. Hopefully he'll be in to do that by the next episode, but for now, if you want to stay up to date with everything across the channel, subscribe and turn that notification bell on. We are going to be live on Twitch tonight, my final daily stream before I go back to work, so please do come and check that one out. We're in a summer transfer window with Luton Town there. We'll also be back with our Southend save tomorrow for transfer deadline day. You can find yesterday's summer special up in the eye above. And this one will be back in 2 days' time at the usual time of 3:30. A reunion with FC Gifu. It don't get much bigger than that. Thank you very much for your support with everything as always. You can find all the playlists and links in the eye above. And I'll see you back here in a couple of days for the ultimate reunion with our former club.